As far as Nizamuddin Dargah is concerned, this helps us capture certain aspects of Delhi uh, which usually remain unaddressed and unattended by major, historiographical traditions. So, so one thing which is very interesting in regard to Nizamuddin Dargah and certain practices which are part and parcel of this particular place. These are the practices which are said to have come down to present from the time of medieval times. So most of the writing which usually talk about mainstream politics, mainstream political class, elite classes culture, these have just survived in the text. Hmm. But in reality, these have come to an end. So these are just textual reality. But certain things which could not find place in the text, uh, in that measure, in that seriousness, they have, however, survived to this date. So Nizamuddin Dargah is one such place uh, which we cannot omit to discuss when we discuss about the Delhi's history in totality. So without reference to Nizamuddin Dargah's history of Delhi, especially of medieval time, will remain incomplete. I therefore refer to this chapter where you get to know something which has been coming from the time of medieval period and survives to this date. So what is this? Uh, this is something which has got to do with the subjective experience. What is subjective experience? Because Nizamuddin, as I had told you in the very beginning, in the course of my lecture, regarding conflict between spiritual world and the political world, where spiritual was equally important. Hmm. And it was, in fact, more popular than the politics and the political sphere. So much so that those at the helm of politics had become, apprehensive of such spiritual entities like, Nizamuddin Aulia, who commanded great respect and regard among the populace. Hmm. So that was something which was evident in medieval time, and this is very much, several texts bear testimony to this uh, competition and the tension between two worlds, spiritual world of the Sufis, hmm, and the political class, which were part of Delhi history. Is this clear? So far, so good. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, moving on to this chapter, which is not actually talking about medieval times, but it is talking about practices which have come from that time. And maybe in medieval time, this could not attract much attention, especially in terms of, historicity, in terms of, talking about them. Because the main attention was mostly towards the political class and their activities. But in today's time, uh, it's not Desiderio Pinto alone who has actually looked at this matter. There are several other scholars from anthropology and from the history who have taken, a very serious view of it. They have taken, great stock of such practices, like, practices which are part of Nizamuddin Dargah, and there are several other places within Delhi where Sufi shrines are there, uh, and their followers. And Peers and Peerjades. Who are Peers and Peerjades? They are basically spiritual masters and custodians of such sacred spaces, such holy places within the Islamic world, but their practices and their several tendencies which characterize their everyday life distinguish them from the fundamental Islamic practices. So there is some sort of distance between orthodox Islamic practices and what they practice, and what they practice have rendered them and their practices more popular and among the people. So they have a large following, a large number of adherents on daily basis come to catch glimpse of you know the Sufis, Sufi shrine. They come to catch, glimpse of the peers and the peerjades who, are in charge of such places. And it's not just catching glimpse. There is a serious engagement. So whenever you study about the history of Delhi, this is one aspect which you cannot or we cannot overlook. This is very important. Why is this important? Because this concerns a large number of people, not only people who are living in Delhi, even from outside Delhi. So if you refer to this particular article by Desiderio Pinto, who is talking about the mystery of Nizamuddin Shrine, Dargah. So who he was, वो कौन थे निज़ामुद्दीन? निज़ामुद्दीन आपको पहले भी बताया था, अभी दोबारा बताता हूँ कि एक बहुत ही मशहूर सूफी शख्स थे और इनकी इज्जत बहुत थी लोगों के बीच में, और ऐसा समझा जाता था, पीपल वर ऑफ बिलीव that he possessed enormous spiritual power, he possessed miraculous power, whereby he, uh, you know, uh, looked after the concerns of the people, whereby he addressed people's concerns on everyday basis. Despite the fact he did not have that luxury of taking care of the people, because taking care of people usually called for the possession of wealth. It actually called for it. It had necessitated to possess so that you can go on spending. But unlike this, Nizamuddin Aliya did not have anything. He would live, a very simple life. He would not be in favor of collection. He would not be in favor of amassing wealth from the war, from the revenue, nothing. Very different model of looking after people, different different kind of politics, spiritual politics. Do you understand? So this is something which Delhi as a place is known for, not in today's, in contemporary time, from the time I'm referring to, that is the medieval times onwards. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. uh, Now, how can we go about studying such things? You think it was possible? Because what do we do in social sciences, especially in sciences which have made a very deep impact on social sciences also? That is why humanities, they have come to be regarded as social sciences, because science and humanities, these are two different fields. But since scientific studies command greater respect in academia because of their universality, because of their general claim, similar thing was expected of the humanities, like history, social sciences, sociology, economics. So there was a emphasis on this notion of universality, notion of generality. So looking out for something which is true across time and across all places. This is what is very much popular in science. So something of similar sort was also expected within the humanities. That is a social. So that is why it came to be regarded as a social science. So what is very popular method in social sciences in general and sciences? They actually go by uh, dispassionate and a survey based method. Why am I calling it dispassionate? Because uh, when you are dealing with the human being is not just a dead object. Hmm. He or she is not just an object lying out there for you to approach them. So they are very much dynamic. They have the feeling. They have they have experience, which is part of their cognitive domain. That is the mental domain. It is going inside. Just so that is why one has to consider adopting non-conventional approach so that you can take stock of the cognitive realities, that is your feeling, your dream, your imagination, your experience, which you feel in the form of revelation, something which you see in your dream. So Nizamuddin Shrine, Nizamuddin's Dargah is one such place, not anywhere else, in Delhi only, where you will meet, peers, Peerzade, who actually look after these places. They are the spiritual officers and they are the spiritual masters of such places. And what they do actually, they listen to people. They listen to people. They do not discriminate between uh, people of rich class and the people of poor class. Their space is open for everyone. And and truly speaking, they are egalitarian in true sense. So in practice, they stick to this notion of egalitarianism, where they listen to each and everyone with equal attention. And so how do we actually go about doing history of such places and the pilgrims and the visitors who visit such places? How do we do actually? So that is why we cannot rely upon traditional, survey-based method, which are more popular in, traditional disciplines like science, where they are occupied, they are obsessed with this idea of the universal fact, universal truth. This is something which is very subjective. It is very particular. Does not have to be, uh, all time, all place reality. This is very much subjective. And so Nizamuddin Dargah is a place where people from all sections come, but largely from the poor sections. Is it clear? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Uh, so Desiderio Pinto is drawing our attention to the fact that he takes actually inventory of all such activities. So he is defining who these peers are, who these peer jades are, and since when they have been practicing these, and what is the kind of belief system they have. So uh, and it is their belief system, and it is their this very faith which connects them with the past, which connects them with the Nizamuddin, and thereby they actually seek legitimacy of their practices and of their existence. So they legitimize their all sorts of activities by uh, uh, claiming to have descended from a line which actually comes all the way from the Nizamuddin, who was a very important spiritual figure. Now, moving on to a new aspect that is related to uh, several activities. So, what are the kind of things which go on? Because in medieval times, you had noticed that uh, these spiritual figures like Nizamuddin Aulia would, in true sense, look after people's concerns. Yeah, he would, in true sense, take care of their everyday needs. Like if someone is not keeping well, uh, or if they feel possessed by some bad spirits, in their terminology, we call jinn. जिन के बारे में सुना होगा आप लोगों ने। जिन एक है ना अनसीन फोर्स है, विच इज यूजुअली एसोसिएटेड विद द डार्क एंड नेगेटिव एनर्जी, like in Hinduism, like in any other religions, there is always a quarter year marked for such existence, जहाँ पे प्रेत आत्मा जिसको बोलते हैं। हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट द प्रेत आत्मा? जिन्न के बारे में सुना है? हेलो।
Yes, sir.
हाँ, आप में से कभी किसी ने जिन का दर्शन किया है क्या?
No, sir.
कभी फील हुआ है ऐसा? कभी डर लगा है कहीं पे? या कभी सम टाइम पीपल फील दैट दे आर possessed, तो ऐसा लगता है ना कि उनके ऊपर भूत आ गया है। ऐसा आप में से कभी कोई महसूस किया है, या कभी हैव यू एवर विटनेस्ड कभी गांव में कि लोग ओझा के पास जाते हैं या सूफी के पास जाते हैं, इस तरह के झड़ाने के लिए, फुकवाने के लिए? ऐसा कभी देखा है आपने? हैव यू नोटिस्ड? हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट इट?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, तो in this regard, people having their different sorts of problem, है ना? If they have some financial crisis, to address that, if they have some health related complications, if they have some if they are ailing, if they are not keeping well, so they come with all sorts of problems. They come to here, and it is here where you also have another very important figure. His name is Amir Khushro. Amir Khushro is no less remarkable figure. Especially he is known for his level he had achieved in terms of relationship between teacher and the student, teacher and the disciple, because this relationship has sought much attention, especially when we deal with the Sufism. In Sufism, this relationship between the teacher and the disciple is one area which has attracted a lot, great deal of criticism and great deal of debate and great deal of discussion, because to achieve a level of relationship, they would surpass all the social norms. They would set up their own line of behavior, line of modus operandi, whereby they would achieve that kind of relationship which was tantamount to becoming identified with the ultimate reality, that is Allah, God. So Amir Khushro and his relationship with the Nizamuddin Aulia was something of that kind. Uh, and other than that, Amir Khushro was also person who would actually do poetry, and who would take very keen interest in music. So music is another aspect which characterizes the Sufi practices. सो दीज आर द इंटीग्रल पार्ट। हमने बताया था आपको, समा बोलते हैं ना, समा, कव्वाली करना, इस तरह के आपको ढेर सारी एक्टिविटीज मिलेंगे, चाहे वेदर यू गो टू Nizamuddin Aulia shrine or any normal shrines. In most of shrines, especially Sufi shrines, this Qawwali tradition is very popular. Qawwal. And especially there have been some popular songs also sung after and named after these shrines. So Muinuddin Chishti and Nizamuddin Aulia, and also Haji Ali, which is in Bombay. So Sufism is something which was actually parallel to the mainstream politics, and in fact, sometime it was ahead of the mainstream political activities, since it commanded respect among large following. among large following, it is for this very reason that they they had become irksome in the eyes of select few ulema class and select few ruling class, or a select few traditional theologians. And it was the then reality, and it even to this date, uh, within Sufism, within the world of Sufi, there are several practices which are not in line with the Islamic practices, and they therefore are considered to be, I mean, not always, but very often they are considered to be the deviant. Because they are, uh, their practices are actually looked down upon. They are looked upon with the great degree of suspicion. So, whenever you talk about Dargah, these are the things which actually cross our mind or anybody's mind who look at these aspects. But we cannot ignore this simply because it does not fit into the larger framework. Larger framework means the elites framework, or the framework which is far more popular, or which has which has come from above, not from the below. So when you talk about Nizamuddin's Dargah, you talk about things which are actually part of the below reality, which are part of the subaltern places. So whatever is happening there is something which is again part of the history. So large number of people come to this place, and their system is nothing, it's not less important. You just be there. There is a no, someone is knocking the door. Just be there. आवाज आ रही है? Can you all hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
you're
sir.
audible.
Okay. So what I was trying to tell you that when people do come to this place to catch glimpse of this dargah, so they interact with the peers. They interact with the peer jades who are custodian of such places, because they maintain. So they have grammar like rules and regulations, uh, which is normative regarding normative structure. It is a normative structure concerned with the control. So it's not that even if it is a different from the mainstream politics, it's not structureless. It has a structure which is far more flexible compared to the mainstream politics and the political structure, where access is not that easy. Whereas access to such spiritual places, uh, it is way easier, but that should not be interpreted as if it is a structureless. So there is a way to get access to it. So for example, if you want to get access to Nizamuddin Dargah, so the first spiritual figure whom we come across is that of Amir Khusro. So we proceed from here, then further to the mainstream, the ultimate Sufi, that is the Nizamuddin Auliya. So this is how it actually step by step procedure is there, and then there are certain ways. There are certain ways people hold on for their turn, and they are very religious. They are very respectful towards such spiritual practices. So they have several beliefs, like they seek fulfillment of their wishes, and in return for the fulfillment they offer several things in return for the fulfillment of their wishes. जैसे मन्नत बोलते हैं ना, मन्नत कोट अनकोट, जैसे सब मन्नत मांगते हैं तो हम लोग भी मन्नतें मांगते हैं, मिन्नतें, मिन्नत मांगना। तो these are the places। तो मन्नत का मतलब क्या होता है कि who is actually fulfilling your wishes? Our president, our prime minister, our mainstream judiciary, or people like the peers and peerjades and the Sufi shrines. Where are they actually people seeking redressal for their everyday grievances, be it their health, be it their job, or be it any kind of problem, or be it a jinn related problem, bad spirit related problem, negative energy related problem, where they get their all sorts of grievances redressed. So these very shrine where people come in large number, and you do not get to see the clear picture unless you go there and you see on everyday basis. So there is a dynamics, there is a dynamic, and if you lose sight of such a wide range of dynamics, you will also lose the complete picture of Delhi. You cannot form a complete picture of Delhi unless and until you also incorporate these practices into your larger study to get the total picture of Delhi. So these peers and peerjades are also considered to deliver justice. And sometimes without their mediation, people feel that they would not be able to materialize, they would not be able to get what they have actually wished for. That is why uh, they are working in tandem with the mainstream political apparatus. So they are working like a doctor, and and they are also working like magicians, and they are working like judges. Mm. And and people they work like so people. That is why he has used at one place the petitioner. So people approach these peers and peerjades. So they, on behalf of people, become mediator. So this mediation actually occurs through these very peers and peerjades, and who in turn communicate with the God. So they become interface between the God and the common people. And in these common people, it's not that only Muslims are there. You will have people from all sorts of beliefs and all sorts of denominations. So Christians, Sikhs, Muslims, non-Muslims, all sorts of people are there. Mm, and most of them are usually from the poor section. However, if you ever visit any of these places, you will also spot a very rich people. For example, if you go in Ajmer, you must have heard about चिश्ती का दरगाह। चिश्ती का दरगाह के बारे में have you heard? Celebrities आते हैं before some celebrities before they launch their movies for the final screening, they come and visit Chisti Dargah for the success of the film. तो सलमान खान कभी आता है, कभी कटरीना कैफ आती है, कभी शाहरुख खान आता है, कभी आमिर खान आता है, और कभी अजय देवगन आता है। इस तरह से several celebrities come. So these are now, maybe in medieval times this might not have remained the center of attention, but these very places are now very much, these are the practices which have survived from the medieval times, and maybe in medieval times they could not become the center of attention, but in today's, these are the practices which have become the center of attention. All right, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So in this regard, maybe we will not discuss any other article. We will discuss this article only. We will bring another article from this syllabus. It is by Anand Taneja. He is talking about jinn, and he is talking about the people who come to visit certain places, especially the place nearby Majnu ka Tila. There is a very famous place. If you all come down to Delhi University, not very far from far away from there. You may actually walk down to that place, Majnu Katila. Among students, it is famous for eateries and clothes because momos वगैरह मिलता है वहाँ पे. Tibetan colony भी है. So there only we have one such spiritual place जहाँ पे people come in large number to seek redressal. चाहे वो हेल्थ रिलेटेड हो चाहे किसी. सो व्हाट दे डू एक्चुअली, दे हैव सर्टेन ग्रामर लाइक स्ट्रक्चर जहाँ पे वो आते हैं. दे विल क्लोज देयर आईज, दे विल डू, दे विल ऑफर प्रेयर इन देयर माइंड. They will offer their prayer in their mind, and they will they will in many cases, if you refer to this article, they also write their grievances, and they write their needs, uh, and requirement for the fulfillment of that needs, and that piece of paper, and they drop in box, or they hand that to the peers who is considered to be the messenger on behalf of people. And then he conveys the message, and then in many cases people feel relieved. People feel relieved, and they are of view, they are of opinion and belief that these Sufis and the Peers and the Pirizades possess enormous amount of power, spiritual power. So, and in many cases people have experienced miracles, and this is actually something which goes on in mind. This is something which goes on in mind. So when people discuss along this line, when they talk about something which is alongside this line, people usually laugh out. They laugh out, they don't take it seriously. But something which is part of our everyday life, it is not something that you're talking of fiction. This actually happens on the ground. So something which is there, something which is happening, how can we look away from that? How can we say that these do not exist? So in the first place, we have to acknowledge the existence of such practices. And since there is not one person or two persons, it's not a particular case. Large number of people coming, and they are actually conforming to the fact that they feel relieved. They feel relieved, which modern day institutions, medical institutions like All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIMS, and the Safdarjung Hospital, and all those big hospitals cannot actually redeem them of their everyday tension and everyday problems. These Sufis and Peers and Pirzades uh, are considered to be the true redeemers, liberators. So they redeem them from all sorts of anxieties, and they are witness to it, and they acknowledge it. So modern day state, modern day police structure, all that big structure, superstructure which we are living under, they invariably fail to take care of them. That is why a large number of people, rather than coming to judiciary for their everyday problem, rather than coming to modern medical facilities, of course they cannot get access to, because you must have seen getting access to doctor, getting access to expensive medicines, and then side effects which these medicines have, especially in corona, COVID's time. This has become very true. This so-called modern medicines have failed. They claim, and there is a big distance between what they claim and what they actually do on the ground. So ultimately, it seems that the large number of people who are of opinion, who are of belief, that visiting such places and such people and seeking their consultation, so they act like a advisor, they act like a counselor, they act like judges, they act like I mean they perform several roles, which the parallel system actually perform. That is why Delhi. When you talk of Delhi, and like Delhi, there are several other places where you will come across such Sufi practices. But Delhi, like those places, is also a place where you will come across a similar set of practices. In fact, Delhi is known for this. Delhi is known for this, and that is why we should not always be preoccupied with the mausoleums. We should not always be occupied with the ruler's tomb, like Humayun tomb or Lodhi tomb. We should also, undertake visit to such, subaltern places, which have mostly remained ignored, unaddressed. So Desiderio Pinto, by taking our attention to such places and such practices, emphasize the importance of this subaltern domain. Is this clear? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Mhm. So for today, I will not carry on much because I guess I assume that people are still preparing for making their way to Delhi. So I will end my lecture here.